Hello and welcome to another Heart to Heart. Today I have a very special guest. If you've been following my videos this past summer, you might have noticed that every summer I do a video challenge for myself for these past 3 years. And this summer I was inspired by Laurie Wagner and her challenge during lockdown. It was called 27 Wildest Days. I saw that and I was like, perfect, this is exactly what I need right now. So I jumped in, and actually I didn't even know much about her work yet. I just knew that it felt right. But I got to learn that she's a writing teacher, a coach, an author of 7 books, a mixed media artist, a fervent collage maker, mother of 2, and one-time amateur racquetball champion. Oh, interesting, Laurie. So she actually saw some of my videos, and we decided that we wanted to connect because it seems like we're really interested in similar kinds of work, and we thought it could be fun to have a conversation and trust our hearts, or wild speak to each other and see whatever we want to say to each other intuitively. So thanks for being here, Laurie.
So excited. Nice to be here with you.
So we're going to start with a bit of a heart clearing. That's what I'm calling it these days. We're going to do 3 minutes each of just holding space for each other and allowing our hearts to express whatever it is that they want to say in this moment. So to each other directly, or just maybe not even necessarily to each other, anything that we're kind of feeling in there. So I'm going to go first, Laurie. Put 3 minutes on my timer. And you're just gently holding that space for me. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. So I like to feel into my heart, and a lot of times I'll feel a lot of nervousness or excitement at this part, especially when I'm doing it in a heart-to-heart like this. But today I actually feel really calm. And I think it's because you seem to have this like really calming presence, for me anyway. That's one thing that I really, really appreciated with the videos that you gave as prompts for the 27 Wildest Days. And I'm so excited to be able to actually say this to you face to face,
Mm-hmm.
because those videos and those 27 days were so incredibly grounding and soothing for me during, honestly, a pretty difficult time emotionally. I was feeling a lot of grief and a lot of confusion and uncertainty. And so I was so grateful to have those videos that I could kind of know that I could pop on and hang out with you, even though I didn't really know you. It was nice to just be like, oh, here's Laurie. I know she's gonna do this beautiful reading, and I'm gonna be able to have some time to do some writing and do what I love the most with somebody who seems to really get that, which was huge for me. Because I do this stuff and I put it online and I'll get some people who understand, but honestly, there are still a lot of people that are just like, they'll tell me to my face. Like somebody that I worked with was like, oh, I found your videos. At first I found them really weird. But then she said, but then I saw some of them help me, so I know that what I'm doing, like a lot of people don't get. And so it was really nice to just find somebody else who gets that kind of work, and who is doing it, and who is inspiring others to do it in like their own way, and who is like teaching this type of practice. I mean, we all have our own ways of doing it, but for me, it was just such a relief, a relief in that sense. And I'm so honored to be able to say this to you. I really am. I think this is so cool. And I never really thought that I would be talking to you right now. So I kind of just want to honor myself in that too, because this is kind of new for me to be reaching out to people like this. And yeah, I wanna like say that and honor it. So thank you. Thank you for holding that space.
Wow. Thank you.
All right. So you ready to give it a try?
I am. Yeah. Okay.
3 minutes, starting now.
Okay. Well, I love that I love that you held your heart, and immediately when you started talking, I realized I was in the presence of somebody who was bold and daring, and especially when it came to transparency. And I immediately recognized this, what you were doing was something that I think is so beautiful. And I felt it immediately, which was you were grounding in the now of right now. And I think that is it was so beautiful and startling, because it really is the foundation, I think, for everything. You know, it's not like we're just pulling pretty plants around, and we need soil, we need ground, we need to start with where we are. And so I was really, really moved by that. And almost immediately listening to you talking, I felt sort of weepy, you know, like I got weepy, feeling like just how touched you were to do the work, and what it meant to you in a difficult time, and that you felt that I understood your work, and that you feel that you work alone and you don't always know what you're doing or who will receive it. And I really, really related to that, because every time I do something, I don't know who's going to receive it, and I don't know how it's going to be met. And especially if it's something I really love, you know, it's like a little baby going out there. And so I really resonated with that. Like, no matter how many books you've done, or how many whatever you've done, or how many years you've done it, like, there's always, I really, really resonate with the vulnerability that goes with the act of creating something. And then having the resonance of other people who see it and get it and share it. And it's really like, for me, it's not about being super famous, and it's not about being the best of this or that, you know, it's just really, I tell friends sometimes when I've written a piece, um, I'm just glad that I could write it. I'm just glad that I could write it, you know. And so I feel like I feel in your work, and I felt in what you said, how personal, the personal nature of what you're doing. You're not trending something. You're actually landing in what is true for you. And I really feel that in your writing. And that's what I try to do too. And so I feel like I'm with a kindred. Um, I also feel nervous when I'm about to get on a Zoom call. I lead this Zoom call for 100 people every 2 weeks, writers in the wild family that I am in. And I'm so nervous all the time. I'm so nervous all the time. And I always have to remember that I'm not performing. I'm just actually, all they want me to do is what I want to do, which is just land in myself and come from an authentic place. And that's such a beautiful lesson, you know, in life, that it's not about importing a better self to the party, but about just bringing you know, something authentic. And that's where we make the deeper connection with ourselves. We stay connected, and then we make connection with other people. So like, just sitting here now talking to you in this way, so softly as I am, I feel like I'm in an elevated conversation. We have nothing to prove. We don't even need to woo each other, you know. We have just made an agreement to land in presence, in wild presence together, and see what happens, you know. Like, how exciting that we don't know where we're going, you know. It's so good.
Right.
So
Thank you for that. Thank you. This
yes.
is a beautiful start, I would say. And wild presence. I love that you called it that. I think that's really what it is. And that's what I feel. It's that like unchained, unmuzzled. I'm here right now with whatever is, and right now, thankfully, it's joy. You know, like sometimes that's not what it is, but
Joy and appreciation, huh?
yeah, absolutely. And there was something else I wanted to say on what you said there, but I've lost it. Oh yeah, it was the fact that um, a lot of what you were saying just now really was reflected to me in your videos, like in the 27 Wildest Days. I was getting to know you a little bit because, again, I didn't really know you or your work when I kind of jumped into that. Um, and in one of your videos, I think you said this. You said, you know, oh, I was gonna like fix my hair or something, but no, I'm just showing up as I am. And I was like, that's where I was like, yes, somebody who gets that piece, because that's what I've been trying to do in videos for the last 3 years, you know. And it feels kind of rebellious in a way. And when we have see all these videos where people are so like made up and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I wonder, like, I'd love to hear more about your journey and how you got to
Yeah.
that space of like, I'm going to show up with whatever it is, you know. I'd love to
Mm-hmm.
hear about that.
Yeah. I want to say to that too, like when my dad died 11 years ago and I was at his bedside when he died, and I just remembered like the biggest takeaway from watching my dad die in that moment was how final and precious life is.
Mm-hmm.
And my big thought was, I don't want to end my days feeling that I didn't let people in and I didn't reach out to others in a kind of porous way so that we were really present with one another. And that's not to say that I'm present all the time. I think it's a practice.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a practice. Um, you know, I mean, I kind of don't know where to start, but I will say that the work we do in wild writing is, and this is I'll say it for anyone who doesn't know what it is, it's an automatic writing practice. And so I use poetry, the poetry of other people, really beautiful narrative poetry, storytelling poetry to sort of stir us up. And then we write, it's automatic writing. So we write for 15 minutes, pen never leaving page. And what that practice is about outrunning the inner critic. And it's about outrunning the part of us that wants to present, you know, that wants to be funny or smart and understandable. Like we do that in our lives because we don't want to be killed, right? We want to stay in the tribe. We don't want to be kicked out of the tribe. And, you know, we grow up feeling, everyone does probably to some extent, feeling weird or different, especially I think if you're a creative person, you know. And so we do a lot of presentation in our lives, and I've certainly had many years of you know, kind of trying to fit in or trying to make sure I got the love or whatever, you know, all sorts of shenanigans to do that, I'm sure. I know. And also, you know, I have to say that I was also a really creative kid. And so, you know, I had parents, I grew up in Los Angeles, and I had parents who let me draw on my walls with ink. And so I had like an entire bedroom wall that was just this sort of crazy wash in the 70s. So I'm 60. So it was in the 70s. And there was all this, you know, we were like getting high and we were like, it was Los Angeles. So it was the Sunset Strip and it was rock and roll and it was marijuana. And it was like, we were like just expressing ourselves in such a big way from a very young age and playing a lot of music. We had, you know, the folk music, we had Joni Mitchell, we had Neil Young, James Taylor, like all of that was my sort of milieu of growing up in Los Angeles in the 70s. And also, you know, did a lot of drawing and a lot of comics and a lot of writing and I was just one of those people that was always need to express myself. And so I think that just continued, and there were years where I kind of shut that down because it felt too vulnerable. And I definitely got, you know, I was just always a vulnerable kid who needed to express themselves and then had to sort of work with that, you know, to find a way. There were probably years where I just wanted a lot of attention, you know, too. So I've had to sort of, I want to be careful when I say this because I don't know what this really means, but I will say finesse the way that I express myself so that it wasn't just a couple things important. So it wasn't about like this big dramatic thing that might hurt other people, writing that might hurt other people, like telling hard, dark stories about the past. But that it, as I evolved as a person who started to do more inner work, my expression and the way I wanted to express myself met up with maybe a more evolving, mature part of me that also wanted to express in such a way that I invited you in. So I would sacrifice my own facade, i.e., tell the truth, really be vulnerable on the page or in my work, but in service of inviting you into your own vulnerability. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's
Yeah.
part of what I'm hoping and trying to do in a sense too, you know.
I think you do it really well, because when I watched some of your videos, which I hope everyone who's watching this has seen, you stir the pot in such an evocative way, and you do that thing where you sacrifice your own facade and not look, funny or smart or whatever, thing we do. And you invite, as you do that, you invite me in to have my experience for me. And it just invites me to want to continue to express myself. And that's my aim too.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting, and I don't know if it was like this for you in the beginning, but I just felt that need to express, like you said at the beginning of your journey was, you know, it's just like just have this stuff to express, and as I do it, that's the feedback that I get from people. It's like the more that you are kind of showing up as yourself, and they feel that like
Mhm.
authenticity, I think the more permission I feel to show up as myself and to
Mhm.
express in my way. And
Yeah.
for me, that's the greatest gift. I'm like, wow, you know, is that what I'm doing? Wow.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so great about it is that, and we're not just doing this expression, we're also healing,
Yeah.
because when you spend time either in a conversation or on the page or making music or art or whatever you're doing, and you're actually trying to lay down something authentic, you're sort of creating this like loving vibe for yourself, because you're not lying to yourself. And so you're telling the truth to yourself about something, and it calms something in us.
Yeah.
I think it really calms something in us, because we're creating something that becomes a mirror to how we're actually feeling. And it's very beautiful. I think of it like a sort of psychic alignment. If think about like not acupuncture, chiropractic work, where they sort of, fiddle with your bones and align your bones so that you can sit and stand and walk without discomfort. You're more aligned. I think when you do authentic work and you try to lay down something true, and there's a vulnerability, there's a kind of psychic alignment that helps you breathe better. And it starts on the page or in your music or in your videos, but then it recalibrates so much of who we are, so that then when you walk out the door and you go into the world, you're vibrating from that place more. And so you have, over time, less and less experiences and relationships in your life that don't feed you and aren't authentic, because you can't abide by that anymore. You've already started to fill yourself up with a sense of authenticity, and you really can't abide by anything less. Do you know this experience?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And 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 it's so nourishing, and in a way, because you're aligning. I love the way that you described this whole process, because I really feel like that's what it is. It's this alignment, like with our souls, with who we really are, and that in itself like feeds us so that we don't even need to necessarily be looking outwards for things as we may have done in the past to kind of fill some kind of void because we're kind of taking care of ourselves, you know, and so it's helping
Yeah,
us show up in community or in different spaces in a
yeah.
whole other way.
And it's a practice. That's the beautiful, humbling part. It's a
Yeah.
practice, because there are so many distractions out there.
Oh
We
yeah.
can buy it, we can have sex with it, we can eat it, we can drink it. I mean, really, it's like just a click away, and we all know that so well. And so, I love that you said it feeds us, because every day I have to remember that, because every day I want to distract myself to feel better.
Mm.
And so,
Well,
the practice that I do, so I've been teaching it for 20 years and doing it for 30, the wild writing. But, I do it, I teach it 5 days a week, twice a day with people
really?
when I'm in the teaching mode. And people say like, oh, you must really want to stop the teaching. Like, that's too much. And when are you going to retire? And blah, blah. It's like, oh, it's my practice. And it's really wonderful to do it alone, but it's super powerful to do it in community, in small spaces of 7 or 8 other people. Then we're doing community healing. Because we're all like doing this authentic work. We're putting it out on the page. We're speaking it. We're not critiquing it at all with each other. We're just holding space. But you sit around a table of people or on a Zoom room with people who are doing this work, and it's like, oh, okay. It's
That
really beautiful. You change the whole waters of your community that way. And
yeah.
I didn't know this, in the beginning, I thought I was teaching writing, and I did teach real, like, sort of academic kind of writing for a long time. I used to teach really creative stuff. I just made it all up, but I taught it not in an academic setting. But even so, I started noticing that everyone wanted a byline, and I get it. It really is very tempting to want to prove something. And I don't want to put that down, like prove something. It's great to get feedback, but I also noticed that what was really, really, really valuable was process, and
Mm-hmm.
just coming to the page in a humble way without hoping it becomes something,
Mm.
with
Yeah.
just really showing up with presence.
Yeah. Yeah. And accepting whatever it is that unfolds. If it turns into something, great. If it doesn't, then that's okay. It's part of the process. And maybe it'll mean that it's just a piece to something else later. Like doesn't matter.
You know what it's like? It can be like getting dressed with your eyes closed. You're going to a party, and you want to look great and you want to feel great, but you can't see your clothes. So you're just reaching for like this feels good. And oh yeah, I think I like this hat. And oh, I feel like ruffles. I'm like, what if you got dressed with your eyes closed to go to a party? That's what the writing practice is kind of like. And what happens is that sometimes it just feels good to just draw images and words and stories to you and just let it happen. And sometimes you surprise yourself with such beauty. I mean, the work is awesome and often so beautiful because we didn't aim for the beauty. We didn't scrutinize every word, but
Yeah.
we allowed it to flow through us. And we say in the writing practice, just say yes to what's coming. Just say yes to what's coming. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to open that pathway from the creative unconscious that's instinctive and intuitive. It's like your dreams. When you're dreaming, you're not curating the dream. You're just letting it happen. And so we're surprised by ourselves. We're surprised with the things that come up and things we could never imagine. The other morning I woke up and I realized that the company Levi's jeans which my daughter works for, had dumped a whole bunch, like a huge pile of clothing on the street that they just wanted people to take. And my aunt, who's 88 from Los Angeles, a very glamorous gal, had gone there and put on this really tight sort of like motorcycle hat. She looked amazing in it. Like I could never have come up with that in my own, even if I tried, I couldn't see Aunt Marlene wearing this tight, like really rad 60s motorcycle cap. And so when we're not curating everything, when we're not curating our creativity and just saying yes to what's coming, even if it feels foolish, or like we're creating this like warm love between the creative and ourselves, and then taking it into our work. And it's loving. It's really self-loving, and it's beautiful work. It's Alice falling through the rabbit hole and finding herself at the Mad Hatter tea party. If
Yeah.
we're lucky.
Yeah, and it is a really beautiful self-love practice. You know, we hear a lot of like self-love, and all these kind of weird things associated to it, but it's like this, if you really want to start a self-love practice, this is it, because it's actually loving whatever it is that you're showing up with and accepting that instead of denying it, repressing it, trying to change it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful self-love practice, and it's something that personally I've been really trying to push my or birth myself into.
Mhm.
And it's not always easy in the beginning, because it's kind of like deprogramming. You know, we've been so
Yeah.
trained, if we've been in the regular school system or in jobs that have just asked us to be so self-critical, and doubt ourselves and our creativity.
No.
Yeah,
Oh, and our lives are so brief, you know.
yeah,
We're so briefly here that
yeah,
to come to a point in your life, whatever time, and just realize that you're sort of chained to what other people think, and we all are connected to it. We're all connected to that. I don't think like I care what people think. That's always going to be part of my programming. But I also have this other little thing in my arsenal, which is like when I sit down to write, if I feel blocked or something, I'll start with, what am I afraid to write about? You know, I'll just go right into the writing and go like, what is, if I wasn't afraid what people would say, what would I be writing about right now? You
yeah,
know, and so I have that in my arsenal. And even if I'm not going to share that with people, I'm at least going, okay, let's open up the cellar door just to see like who the fuck is banging on that thing. Because if I hear banging because I got stuff going on here, or I don't want to share it, and I'm like, la 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 la, bang bang bang, la la la, like, then I'm not really here. And what I find is that the stuff down in the cellar door is much more interesting than anything else, because I have energy there. And so when I bring that energy, like, oh, to the writing, like, oh man, you invite so many more people in because everyone feels the same. I say that, like, I've worked with so many people and we have different stories and different details and circumstances, and but we understand the human predicament. So
yeah,
we're not alone, you know?
yeah, absolutely. And really opening up and sharing. I mean, it's everything that we're learning about vulnerability and how important it is. But really, like that's what I want. And I realized that it's something that I was wanting, but I wasn't necessarily always allowing myself to do with people, especially strangers, or like
Mhm.
spaces where I didn't necessarily feel safe. But sometimes I was just really just holding myself back, actually, from it.
What about, right? What are the parts of yourself,
Mm,
Amanda,
yeah.
that you would be afraid for people to see?
Hmm. Yeah. I'm working through that a lot right now. It's definitely still around like spirituality and stuff that I've been learning there, like a spiritual side that I'm opening up to, um, that I'm trying to convey more, but I can go deeper. um,
What are you afraid about people seeing in that way? Like, what might they think of you if you shared some of that?
I feel like there are so many misunderstandings. Like as soon as that you say the word spiritual, people have,
True.
yeah, like it can mean anything, and there are a lot of associations that I don't want to be a part of. And so maybe I shouldn't use that word. Maybe like it's more mystic or something. Maybe it's the word.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the word? Because as you were saying it, I was thinking about your videos that are super spiritual, you
Mm,
know, and I don't use that word either. I don't use that word either because I don't resonate with it. So
yeah,
we should come up with a different word,
yeah,
you know, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you share such beauty. And I think it's really great to out ourselves. And is there anything else that comes to mind just because I stirred the cauldron a little?
this is good, and it's practice. I know I've said it before, but it's what comes up again is, again, like spirituality, but tied to sexuality. I feel like
That's
yeah, there
interesting.
are pieces there that I want to bring together and start talking about and weave into my life.
Yeah.
to conversation.
Yeah,
So I
right.
have, yeah, I'm still working on that.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
And how beautiful. Like everyone has their own gift to share,
Mm,
you know, and they're whatever, I think whatever our, I don't want to call it an obsession because that feels too charged, but
right.
whatever we're sort of thinking about, that can become something that we get super interested in. And the
Yeah,
more interested we get in something, the more curious and the more we have to share, because not everyone is thinking about that. So that could be your great gift,
yeah.
you know.
And it makes me wonder now, because for me, these past 3 years, I've been finally feeling like I'm getting to know myself. Because I didn't really know myself, and I didn't really know what I
Mhm,
actually liked or what I wanted. And so
mhm.
I feel like I can say those things now, and I wonder, as I'm kind of discovering myself more and peeling back these layers and bringing more of what I want to talk about or do forward, I wonder if when I'm 60, if that's still going to keep happening, like, well, where are you at? Do you have like something that you're kind of wanting to bring forward now?
Yeah, I want to answer that question. I will answer that. I just thought of that something. Oh, I thought of a great writing prompt for you,
Yeah.
which is here are a number of reasons why I won't write about sacred sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Here are a number of things I'm not going to tell you about sacred sexuality. I love backing into the story like that because you really have a lot you want to say, but you're making a list of why you're not going to tell us.
Yeah.
So great.
I like those
You
prompts.
know,
I like those prompts. You had some
yeah,
ones in the 27 Wildest Days, and those are some of my favorites.
yeah. And I also love making lists. Um, okay, what would I be afraid for people to, mine are more, so I, so it's interesting. Let's see. I, I've always been interested in relationships, like really sort of like seriously curious about relationships. And I've also been a person who's experimented in a lot of relationships. Um, and so on the one hand, I could tell you, um, yeah, my husband and I were married for 24 years. We had an open relationship for 10. I was in open relationships, like on the one hand, at one point in my life, I really wanted to write about that because I felt like I was getting a lot of insight, and also it was really impacting my marriage in what I thought was a good way. We were talking about big love, like what it was to love beyond the boundaries of family or, the nuclear family. And so I just want to sort of say that I've, and I was scared to write about that too, more publicly. I would blog about it a little bit, just dip in, dip in, dip in, but I didn't go whole hog about it. And actually, I just want to say, um, I don't need to write about that anymore because because I've also had some insights about why I was in those relationships. Actually, it would be really powerful. Oh, this is good. I am writing. I am writing like a memoir in numbers. Number one, number two. I'm doing like a lyric memoir, and it is all about sexuality and my relationship with men and my relationship with alcohol, and and I think and how I would come at it today, and I think how I'm going to sort of infuse the new writing is talking about those relationships I was in, but also have come to some understanding about them. They were very convenient for me. They actually weren't very deep. And I wrote a piece this morning on my blog about intimacy. And it was a piece about spooning with my mother in LA
I read
this
that.
last week.
Yeah, it was great.
Spooning. And it
Yeah.
was really intimate. And it was also really uncomfortable with me. It showed me something about intimacy and where I have or haven't been with it. And so I think entering my memoir around intimacy, I see more today, which is about my fear of it. So I think more writing, like juicy writing like that. And that's vulnerable to write about, I think, because you're really letting I would be letting people see how uncooked I am, or how I'm still working through, like, I'm still working through wounding, at 60. I'm still working through heartbreak, wounding, the part of me that uh, is afraid of love, is afraid of intimacy, right? And so I do love and I do relationships, but I think that really getting underneath it and really talking about it would be really beautiful for me. I also think just kind of on the shallow surface, things that I would be afraid for people to see is how much I still need so much confirmation and so much love, like how much love I actually need. And probably the other thing that I would be afraid for people to see is that even though I teach this work, that's all about, what I say to people before we work is, please write as poorly as possible. Please write as poorly as possible. And then I say to people, we already love you. We already love you. So you please don't sell us anything. There's still always a part of me that wants the love and that wants it to be good. And I think that's great to write about, actually. I think it would be a service to my community to talk about how much I still want my work to be good, even though I'm inviting us to write as poorly as possible. But, we teach what we need to learn.
Oh yeah,
So
and that's that vulnerable leadership that I think like I want more of, and I think we all need more of. That's the real leadership. That's like the
yeah,
real like the teacher is still learning. The teacher is not pretending to be perfect. Like
yeah.
I don't want
That's not
that.
helpful.
No, it's hypocritical.
Yeah,
When a teacher is pretending to like know everything and be
yeah.
you just don't even really want to listen to them because you know that there's something rotten.
Not quite right about it,
Yeah,
because also it separates me from you.
yeah,
Then I'm this and you're that, and then I have to somehow maintain whatever I'm posing. It's not posing because, teacher, like, okay, you've got some things to share, but
yeah,
I don't want to cramp myself either. I
yeah.
don't want to keep myself on some high ledge with this rarefied air,
Mm.
because that's not it.
Yeah,
And there
that's
is no place like
frustration.
that, by the way. Like, that feels suffocating to me,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah, because it forces you to ignore certain parts of you, the parts of you that are still wanting that love or whatever it is that's coming up. Like you don't
Right.
push those away and pretend that they aren't there because you need to look a certain way or something.
Right. And that's when we're dead. The creative process is a process of keeping the gates open
Yeah,
so that we're paying attention and we're aware of what's happening. And then from that material, we are working and making things from that stuff, you know, from that, a bit, just like we started this conversation with the ground of like, oh, what's happening beneath me right now? Where am I now? Some of those videos I made for the Wild Family, which is, it's this community, it's a community that I have where people get 3 videos a week. And so I make these videos, but I was very sad for a couple of months making those videos. I was very sad. And, I had to come to the teaching with that heartbreak of COVID and what was going on in the world around me. I had to come to it versus like, hi, everybody. It's like, and it's like, wow, is this leadership too? Without pulling other people down, because
yeah,
I want everyone to have the experience they're having. But all I could say was like, today I feel heartbroken. Today I'm heartbroken, and I chose this poem and da da da, and it's like allow people to have their own experience, but start and land in mine. And that's why I love how you started this interview, because we're just landing where we are together. And look what we can make from like an authentic place versus some sort of set of questions and then answering it correctly, or whatever bullshit that is.
yeah, yeah,
You
totally.
know?
Like, and before I really started doing this, like having these conversations, I was so in my mind about it. I felt like, well, I can't do that. I would need to like have these questions and know exactly what I'm gonna talk about or know exactly what I want to ask. And it has been a practice, just like with showing up for a wild writing or for a heart expression video, as I call my practice. It's just trusting that whatever it is that wants to be expressed or whatever it is that's going to come up in the moment is what what needs to be or what is right now, and that's okay. And trusting yourself to show up and to be okay.
Yes, saying yes to what's coming. What we say in the wild writing at the table when we're sitting here with other people is we say like, what we do here at the table, you know, a lot of people think like, oh, am I a good writer? Is this good writing? And we say like, what if we change the nature of that? And it's like, so what's coming through you? What if what you write and what you read at this table isn't for you? It's for someone else at this table who needs to hear it.
Yeah.
And if you mess with it by trying to make it better or something, you're messing with the message. And so what if it's for someone else at this table and your job is just to channel what's happening and not like channel it, but just say yes to what's coming, just listen and then put it out and be humble to what's coming and not try to curate it because it's for someone else.
Absolutely. Oh,
You know,
I was getting
that.
bumps when you were saying that, because
And that takes
I feel
the
like that's
ego
what
out of it.
creation is. Yeah, that is the power of this kind of practice, and really coming together around it. Because sometimes, honestly, that's really what it is. And sometimes when I share and I create, I know that it's not just for me or just about me. Um, and actually, I love. There are a few things I want to point out. First of all, I love that you say accept whatever word is coming in. Don't like try to change that word. I love that you were saying that in the prompts in the videos that you made for 27 Wildest Days, because it was really helped drill that into me, because I think I was still getting stuck on specific words sometimes that wanted to come through and wanting to change them.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a great experience with that in my first, just last week, I actually was in a circle of 5 women and we wrote together. It's the first time I've done
Mm-hmm.
that in a long time. And it's been inspired by what I've been seeing you're doing. I was like, yeah, I want that. And so
Community.
in this writing session together, I felt a word come in, a word that I was like, oh no, not that word, but I wrote it, and it was shackles. And it turned out that
Uh-huh.
another woman in the group used the same word. And she ended
Oh,
up pointing it out. Like when she wrote, she was like, oh, I used that word too. And I was like, that's
yeah.
weird, because I felt hesitation around that word, but because I wouldn't really
Yeah.
use it normally, but I felt like it wanted to come out. So I trusted that. I wrote it, and I feel like it kind of connected, because then we were able to talk about that, and we talked about freedom and, things that I brought up.
Yeah.
I found
Did
that
she write it at in the same writing time, or did she hear yours and then use it?
no, in the same writing time.
So it was as my teacher Dina Metzger says it was in the field. It
Totally.
was in the field.
I
So you're
feel
just listening, responding to what was in the field.
I like honestly feel that, I was an English teacher these past 3 years, and I was starting
Mhm.
to hold what I just called creative writing time for my students. They were
Nice.
totally freaked out by it, because they had
Mhm.
never done anything like that before.
Yeah.
They were used to being told exactly what to do and like give me more
Yeah.
than I just gave them a prompt. I remember.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I experienced, was sometimes those who did share, sometimes they ended up talking, they wrote about the same thing, like they wrote about Harry Potter or whatever. But I thought that was so interesting.
Mhm. Love that.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. It happens here too, and and that's very beautiful. That there's a connection. It's like an invisible connection of like we're actually experiencing very similar things,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I like that. I just feel like it's just this reminder that like when we are together and like
Mhm.
sitting in circle, even if it's virtually, I feel like there's a connection happening beyond words sometimes. That's just like a feeling, or just in the space,
And as a writer and as a person in those circles, I think like real leadership is being willing to go first, which is to say, like, as I say, like, sacrifice your own facade. When you are willing to do that kind of thing in that circle, of course, it's scary, like, oh, what will people think? But what ends up happening is you end up showing people that the water is just fine, and that, yeah, we can write about this stuff, and I'm going to write about this stuff. And then people are like, whew, okay, good, we can write about this stuff. But sometimes, you know, the circle will stay kind of held back, and it takes one person being able to risk being misunderstood
Yeah.
in order to really get that going. I have a teacher training for people to teach them how to do this work. And it really is a leadership training in how to be vulnerable with other people. And, you know, it's really easy to teach them how to run the class and, you know, how to set it up and everything. But to teach people how to be vulnerable when we're together is the big leadership.
Wow. And so can I ask how you integrate that into, because I think, yeah, that's probably what it's really about. And so when you started that program, how long have you been doing
4
teacher?
years.
4 years?
4 years. I do it once a year. I take 10 people. It's 5 months long.
Okay.
How we do it is we do it really through a lot of rigorous wild writing,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
really just trying to really take the opportunity as a group of 10 people who are together once a week for a few hours on Zoom to really, really push it, and really, like you talked about shackles, like dropping shackles, you know, really do that and really see, so they have the experience of what it's like to show up vulnerably with other people and be held
Mm.
and loved for that,
Yeah.
and how good that feels, and that it's so freeing. And that then if they love it, they have the courage then to lead their own circles. And what happens is then they start, like, it's just like it's a snowball of love, because when you start teaching and people are like, oh, and they love it too, it just, you know, it's like, talk about an infection, a virus. It's like a really potent virus of authenticity
Yeah.
and sacrificing the facade, which we're so tired of. And especially in this time in our life, like, we will rejoice when we are able to gather again in person in live circles. We will rejoice when we are able to reach out and to pull one another into one another. And hopefully we will remember that we didn't always get to do that. And so how do we want to spend our time with one another?
Vulnerable
Please.
places.
Yeah.
Ah, well, wow, that just feels like, it feels like that would be a nice note to end on. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else that you feel inspired to say or that you wanted to say that you didn't get to say. I'm just checking in for myself. Hmm. For me, it's about just expressing more gratitude. And so that would be kind of wrapping it up. Is there anything else on your end?
Just want to appreciate you for inspiring me.
Oh, wow.
Doing your videos. Keep making those beautiful videos. Um, yeah, just keep doing your work. I showed your videos to so many people.
Oh, thank
It's
you so
really beautiful.
much. That it's
Yeah.
amazing to me to hear that from you, somebody who's been doing this kind of work for much longer than I have, intentionally anyway. Wow, thank you so much for seeing me. I appreciate that at this stage in my journey. I really do. For encouraging me, for meeting with me, for getting on my channel with me. That's huge to me. I hope that you
What
know.
you asked me, and I'm like, yes.
I was like, wow,
Thank you for having me.
so
Thank
cool.
you for having me. It's really a pleasure. And you know, my day will be different because I'm going to go make 3 videos for my wild family, but I'm going to have made them coming from this space that we created. So
Cool.
we just keep, right? This is how we feed ourselves and we feed our communities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So much
Yeah.
gratitude for you and all the work that you do. Honestly, you inspire
Thank
me.
you.
So thank you.
Okay.
So thank you for having watched. Please do check out Laurie's work. I'm going to include links to her website and her Facebook so you guys can check it out. And let us know if you have any questions or anything you'd like to share in the comments on this video. Thanks a lot.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Laurie. Bye.
Okay.